I am white. Actually, that's a lie, too. I'm kind of tan. And he was actually not black.
If you're tan,
he was
what
sort
the
of
fuck am
brown.
I?
It is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
Now, for context, India RE is talking about a podcast segment that took place 3 years ago. So you must ask yourself, what is making her have a problem with it now and not 3 years ago? Why didn't she pull her music from Spotify 3 years ago when the podcast segment was released?
Let's assume for a moment that I've benefited from my white privilege. Okay, so let's assume that. That's fine.
Assumption.
That's what you would say. So, so let's say, here, let's get precise about this, okay?
Was that very individual of you?
Let's get precise about this, okay?
Let's get precise.
To what degree is my present level of attainment or achievement a consequence of my white privilege? And I don't mean sort of. I mean, do you mean 5%? Do you mean 15%? Do you mean 25%? Do you mean 75%? And what do you propose I do about it? How about a tax? How about a tax that's like specialized for me so that I can account for my damn privilege, so that I can stop hearing about it?
Now, Jordan Peterson asked a very valid question. He asked, how do you measure white privilege? What portion of his success comes from his white privilege? Is it 100% or is it 1%? When we talk about race, it's rarely done in context and it's rarely done without emotion. So the problem with the whole racism narrative is that you don't actually have to prove it. You can just rely on things that happened in the past to justify the future, even if they don't. So instead of having to actually prove white privilege, you simply make white privileged. So that leads the general public to believe that if a person is successful and they happen to be Caucasian, they are simply successful because of their skin and not their hard work, or their gifts, or their talents, or their intelligence.
Voice of intolerance and bigotry and anger and hateful.
Sexual oppression.
What did Michael
prejudice.
Eric Dyson call you? A mean angry white man?
Mean, yeah, and a mean, angry white man, yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not mean at all.
Yeah.
That's what's dumb about that statement. It's you're not mean at all.
I am white. Actually, that's a lie, too. I'm kind of tan. And he was actually not black.
If you're tan,
he was
what
sort
the
of
fuck
brown.
am I? Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But neither of us are white.
Well, I'm Italian.
And he was brown, not black. And he was brown, not black. And he was brown, not black. And he was brown, not black.
And he was brown, not black.
As I've stated many times, to be black is to be controlled, because a person doesn't control what black is. But also what we're finding is that to be white is to be controlled. And what you will see is you will see what happened to black will happen to white, because they are both controllable constructs. All the system needs is for a person to identify as a color, and that person will do the will of the system.
Well, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's really weird.
The black and white thing is so strange because
like
the shades are so...
tan and brown.
There's such a spectrum of shades of people. Unless you're talking to someone who is like 100% African from the darkest place where they're not wearing any clothes all day and they've developed all that melanin to protect themselves from the sun. You know, even the term black is weird. And when you use it for people that are literally my color, it becomes very strange.
Yeah.
You know.
This is true.
This is not about racism at all, because they didn't say anything racist. They simply highlighted something that we all know is true. No one's actually black and no one's actually white. But the system needs a person like India Irie to identify as black so that she can be an influence over other black people. India Irie was told to do this because Joe Rogan's podcast is seen as an outlet that goes against this Peter pandemic. And as we've established before, fighting against racism is a communist tactic. And anyone fighting against racism is working for the system. So the system needs for you to view Joe Rogan as a conspiracy theorist, a misinformation spreader, and a racist. They get the people that you hate to tell you the truth, and they get the people that you love to tell you the lie.
And with regards to my privilege or lack thereof, I mean, I'm not making the case that I haven't had advantages in my life and disadvantages in my life like most people. You don't know anything about my background or where I came from, and it doesn't matter to you because fundamentally I'm a mean white man. That's a hell of a thing to say in a debate.
Let me just say,
Very, very brief, because I want to move on to men and women. A good topic next.
the mean mad white comment was not predicated upon my historical excavation of your past. It's based upon the evident vitriol with which you speak and the denial of a sense of equanimity among combatants in an argument. So I'm saying again, you're a mean mad white man and the viciousness is evident.
Okay. Let's reset.
Now we got a black woman leading the way with Moderna. We've got black people talking about the necessity of this vaccine. And I think after doing her research, even Kizzmekia Corbett said, I agree with Nicki Minaj, do your research. But after you do research, what do we find? This vaccine has been especially helpful, that Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson have worked to protect black lives. And we know that unvaccinated people die in disproportionate rates. And we know disproportionate numbers of African American and Latinx people who are not vaccinated will be vulnerable to death. So I beg and plead for people out there. Yes, do your research. Yes, do your scientific inquiry. But at the end of the day, find out that with Tuskegee, they were withholding medicine from us. With Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, they're trying to give us a vaccine that can help and protect us.
Now, many of you all would say, but Blanche, Joe Rogan is controlled opposition. What difference does it make? The truth is the truth. And how we respond to the truth is our responsibility. And if Joe Rogan is controlled opposition, then so is NDRE, and especially Michael Eric Dyson, who will have you believe that if a white person dared to say that they earned what they achieved in life, not based on the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, that said white person is racist and mean. Wait for it. Free Blanche, get money. Come.